disappointment in the game of life.
In a true break from Schaffrillas ranking tradition, the bottom spot on this list is so boring and so substanceless that I not only can't muster even the faintest hint of anger towards it, I don't even know if I can say that much at all about it. It's one of the most in one ear and out the other things I've ever seen. And I genuinely want to keep this as brief as humanly possible, since I actually have shit to say about every other Muppets movie. So, I guess I'll say this. Kermit's Swamp Years is a dull, joyless affair that offers practically nothing I actually like out of the Muppets. I didn't chuckle or smile once, and I can't remember the name of any character introduced in this movie.
Who are you?
Okay, I take that all back. None of that applies to Roy. For some reason, the extremely casual tone in his voice was just hilarious to me.
I'd like to welcome you to our little pet store here, if you know what I mean.
But he's only in this for 2 minutes! The absence of all the interesting and cool Muppets is extremely felt, and Kermit himself is somehow at his least entertaining and compelling in this movie. Genuinely, this is a void where entertainment goes to die. I only enjoyed one sequence, and that was this musical number at a pet store. Okay, that was kinda cute. Otherwise, what a slog. There's a movie ranked above it that I had a more visceral, negative reaction to, but at least there were quite a few things about it that caught my attention. Not for good reasons, but there was something there, I guess. There's nothing with this movie. It has direct-to-DVD sequel written all over it. I guess this had a terrible CG fly at the beginning. Kermit meets a young Jim Henson, and just in case you couldn't tell it was him from this mailbox, they then cut to a shot of just the mailbox. You know, in case you missed it, it was pretty small in the last frame. The science teacher villain in this was so lame. He reminded me a little bit of Wanda Sykes in the Sandy Cheeks movie. Honestly, I would rather watch the Sandy Cheeks movie than this. Dude, I am really struggling. I'm like stretching this because I feel like I should delve into the reasons why I didn't like Kermit's Swamp Years, but I just don't know if I can. I have nothing to say. It's so boring. How many synonyms are there for the word boring? It's tedious, dull, repetitive, monotonous, passionless, spiritless, soulless, jejune, stodgy, quotidian, and every other adjective. If this movie was your childhood, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks, James. I appreciate your genuine concern about me.
That your childhood sucks and your parents should have shown you Romeo and Juliet seal with a kiss instead.
Well, fuck you!
Oh yeah, there was also like a rock cover of Rainbow Connection at the end. Literally, what the hell was that? Oh yeah, one last thing I almost forgot to mention. For the ranking, I watched this movie on the night daylight savings ended, which means I gained an extra hour. And I'm sure glad I did, because I got back the hour I wasted watching this movie. Oh! Okay, let's talk about a deliciously bad movie now.
Oh wait, shit, that's from the library.
The Muppets Wizard of Oz should be a slam dunk. It's so easy to make this good, I feel. The Wizard of Oz is a story and property that just makes perfect sense to be mashed up with the Muppets. But all I heard about the TV movie that actually did so was that it's pretty bad. So I watched it, and it's pretty bad. I honestly wasn't expecting this level of sheer misery and boredom from a movie that seemed like such a good idea. What exactly went wrong? Well, for starters, the visuals are awful. The opening song looks like a really poorly shot music video, the sets are pretty generic and uninspired, and the heavy use of TV budget CG is, well, I mean, just see for yourself. It's so atrocious. Oh my god. Gonzo talks to a sexy PS2 lady and then she morphs into a chicken and this gets him really horny. I think this might be the single most bizarre scene I've ever seen in any of these Muppets movies. And this is a movie that features an extended Quentin Tarantino cameo. But like, he's not even part of the story. It's like a Family Guy cutaway to him pitching to Kermit what should happen in the fight scene of the movie we're currently watching. It's so weird and it's never explained what it's doing here, and it visually looks like a Neil Breen movie, and who made this shit? This movie is also so aggressively horny and inappropriate for no real reason. The first scene in the Muppets in the entire movie, Gonzo makes a Girls Gone Wild reference. Pepe calls himself sexy like 10 times. Miss Piggy grabs Kermit's ass. Like I mentioned earlier, Gonzo gets aroused by a PS2 chicken lady. I don't know, call me old-fashioned, but I don't like this shit in excess in my Muppet movie. The adult jokes in the Muppets land so much better when they're sparse. The joke in Caper about the guy going out to dinner with a lady who isn't his wife. That is so much funnier than literally anything in this movie. And it's especially great because it feels out of pocket compared to the rest of that movie. This one just has an annoying air of horniness to it the entire time, to the point where it just becomes exhausting. And it's just generally boring and not really all that funny. I think I chuckled like 2 or 3 times, and that's about it. That's awful for a Muppet movie. It really doesn't help that out of all the Muppets, I think the only one I would actively say I don't like is Pepe. Like, he started to get on my nerves when I watched the Christmas movie where he plays a big role, but he's 10 times more annoying here. To the point where every other quip out of his mouth, I considered just giving up on this movie and changing the whole ranking, so it was just the theatrical films. I already watched the TV Christmas movie before this one though, so I didn't want to lose that time investment. I think the only thing I kind of enjoyed consistently was Miss Piggy as the Wicked Witch of the West, who's kind of like a cool biker lady in this. It was pretty fun to see her act unabashedly villainous for a change. Though the fact that she plays the other witches too is what really made me realize, wow, they really don't have any other female Muppets, do they? There's like the one lady in the band and that's it. Oh, speaking of the band, sorry, I just keep thinking of new reasons why I hate this movie, but there are so many jokes in this that aren't horny, but just go on for way too long to the point where they're not funny. There's this one part where the band isn't there to do a song for Miss Piggy, and it's almost funny, but the bit just goes on so long as they all walk into place one at a time. There's a part where Dorothy isn't standing right on the wizard's trap door, and instead of him just quickly and sheepishly saying, like, can you go down the door or something, they drag it out, like, oh, this is awkward, do you see the trap door? Can you go down this trap door? Oh, that trap door? Yeah, that trap door. Fuck you. This movie is so unlikable. The bit where Pepe plays with Gonzo's nipples. After Gonzo says, those are my nipples, if Pepe just looked at the camera with a shocked expression, that would have sold it. But no, he just gives this ridiculous, overblown reaction that doesn't really feel justified. It's just, how is everything about this movie wrong? Even the songs kinda suck. Miss Piggy's villain song was okay, I guess, but the rest are just terrible. Did anything else happen in this? They find George Bluth in the attic. At one point, Dorothy goes through this machine and they turn her into a white lady. I don't know, man. This movie is soul draining. I can't do this anymore. We need to move on. This fucking sucks so bad. Do not watch this movie under any circumstances. Well, I'm sorry to say, but I didn't really enjoy the Muppet Christmas movie all that much. Oh, not the Muppet Christmas Carol. No, that's obviously later in the list. I was talking about the 2002 TV movie, It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie. Yeah, that's all 3 TV movies taking up the bottom 3 spots on this list. I really wanted to give them a fair shot. You know, just because it's a TV movie, that doesn't necessarily mean it's lesser than something that released in theaters. These movies just so happen to be lesser than the theatrical ones. And even though this one isn't awful, it just feels off, both in terms of writing and direction. There aren't really a lot of super great jokes in this, and a lot of the timing of the scenes doesn't seem right. They often end too abruptly, and the jokes feel misdelivered as a result sometimes. The plot is basically the exact same as the 2011 Muppets movie. Oh no, we're gonna lose the theater if we don't get enough money, oh no! It definitely works a lot better there though. Here it's not nearly as emotionally investing of a conflict, and there's a bunch of other stuff distracting from it. Like, Kermit wishes he was never born, so we gotta do a whole Wonderful Life parody that doesn't get started until the last 30 minutes. We also get to see the angels working in a heaven cubicle. And God herself, played by Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, wasn't that fitting casting? I kept waiting for her to actually interact with a Muppet, but she never does. She just sits back and watches Kermit's depressing life on TV the whole time. I like when she said she wanted to watch SpongeBob instead. That was so real. One of the things I wasn't huge on though is how many contemporary pop culture references there were. Like, it so feels like a 2002 movie, whereas aside from some cameos, all the other Muppet movies feel completely timeless. Yeah, it's pretty funny when Miss Piggy gets a job as an extra on the set of Scrubs, or when the people of Whoville show up and mistake a green Fozzie for the Grinch. These aren't bad bits, but they also feel a little too much like Universal using the Muppets to advertise things they own that were popular at the time. Brand synergy and all that. I also didn't like the Fear Factor scene because that meant Joe Rogan had to be in this movie. I don't want Joe Rogan in a Muppet movie, I'm sorry. The Wonderful Life stuff is okay. It's interesting to find out that Kermit may have indirectly caused 9/11. But aside from one sweet scene with Miss Piggy, it's not really that compelling. Joan Cusack is this evil business lady who manipulates Pepe because she wants the theater, is fine too, but she's not really one of the top tier Muppets villains. There were really only 3 things about this movie I really enjoyed. The scene where Kermit screams over and over again, "I wish I was never born." It was pretty funny the way he said it. The scene where Fozzie delivers the money, because it had a lot of the energy and charm that the rest of the movie kinda lacked. Especially the bit with the lasers. And my personal favorite bit in this entire film, one that I had no idea about going in, the damn Moulin Rouge sequence they put on. Now you're speaking my language. They really went into it there. It was so delightful seeing the Muppets take on such a batshit insane musical. I assumed this was another instance of NBC and Universal advertising themselves, but no, they didn't even own Moulin Rouge. Fox did. They made this parody for the love of the game, which definitely makes me appreciate it a lot more, even if it is as of its time as the other references. Seriously, how did I never know about this? Simply wild. Despite these high moments, this one's really kinda boring, and it just feels less grand and professional than a lot of the other Muppet productions. I know it's a TV movie, but that's not really an excuse for the writing and timing of the jokes to not be as sharp as usual. It's harmless enough, but I don't know if I'm ever gonna watch anything outside of the Moulin Rouge scene again. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I really liked the Doc Hopper's reference in The Bad Future. That was a pretty cool bit of continuity.